pledged to live with and love her until death do they part. He gave her 70 years of life, a full life's quota. He was a military veteran. He served in the Belize as a British colonial. Returning here to Jamaica, he and Auntie lived in St. Elizabeth for 10 years. In 1955, he left to go to England ahead of her to forge the way for their immigration. And the following year, 1956, she left and joined him. They lived in England for 15 years. They attended Handsworth SDA Church, where he was an elder and a deacon. It was there that my life was blessed to intertwine with theirs. At the age of a year and a half, when my mother, who was experiencing a difficult pregnancy in the last trimester, spent most of her time in the hospital with my younger, bigger brother, David. And my father, who worked nights, left the dilemma as to where I would go. The dilemma was quickly solved. I went to stay with my aunt and uncle. When my brother was born, as I was told, I was brought back home, but I would not leave the car. And my aunt and uncle had to bribe me that they would come and get me every weekend to go to church on Sabbath. And I eventually left the car. That they did until 1970, and this was from 1965 to 1970, when they left to the United States. There they lived for 16 years. In the summer of 1972, 3 of us went to the States, myself and 2 of my aunts and nieces. When the summer was over, we returned to England, on which I was told by my mother, I gave her no end of peace wanting to return to the United States. They booked a ticket, put me back on the plane. My aunt and uncle didn't even know I was coming. I sat in the airport for 6 hours until my uncle showed up after they had done the communication that I was there. In 1986, after they had put me through Adventist Academy and Adventist College in Oakwood, they returned to Jamaica. Here my uncle served as a deacon. He had many roles. He was a husband. I like to call him a lifer. He was a father, a grandfather, great-grandfather, a brother, a cousin, an uncle, and yes, a friend. He was instrumental in raising in part or total 14 of us, actually, obviously, of which, yes, you were the first. So Lassie, Winston, Rudolph, Jimmy, who is here, Errol, who is here, myself, Pauline, who could not make it, 3 young kids that they took in New York, Deshawn, who is here, Alyssa, who is here, and young Mackenzie, who is here. You are most likely to know him as Leonard Foster, or Brother Foster, or just Foster. But he had other titles too. As you've heard already, he was affectionately known as Lenny. My auntie often called him L.E. Mas Lenny, Reda Lenny, Daddy, and Uncle. He was a gentleman and a gentleman. Uncle was the epitome of the biblical directive: be slow to anger, quick to listen, and slow to speak. He knew how to keep his cool long before suave and swagger and all these other terminologies attracted or attributed rather to coolness were popular. I can tell you that in over 50 years of life, I've never seen him angry. Understand, I've seen him disappointed, I've seen him troubled, but never out of control. As a young man coming up, that made an indelible impression on my youthful development. Uncle had a proclivity for cheerfulness. In his quiet, attentive way, he loved to laugh and smile. In my adult years, our relationship graduated from man to boy, to man, to friend to friend. I found out just how much he liked to have fun. He had a special, undercover sense of humor. My uncle didn't have the opportunity to walk the halls of academia, but he was an extremely intelligent man. He was a voracious reader. Outside of the hours of reading he engaged, he often picked up some paraphernalia in his path, and we would have to prod him to leave it so we could convene what we were doing. He kept up with current events, and his finger was always on the pulse of politics. He really should have been a politician. My uncle celebrated other people's successes. He was not jealous or covetous. He was happy for other people's accomplishments. You've heard me say uncle without his name having a suffix. I grew up with several uncles, all of whom I addressed Uncle so-and-so. But when I say uncle, everybody knew who I was referring to. He was the consummate uncle and father to me. In our last conversation, he said to me, I've lived a good life. I've had more than most, and I've not wanted for anything. This man was my wardrobe mentor. The reason I have an affinity for fine automobiles. He was the one who would hoist me up as a little boy on his shoulders. This man who, when I called, no matter how long it had been since when last we spoke, always greeted me by saying, hello, Leroy, or hi, Lee. I look forward to that. His genuine salutation warmed my soul. Growing up, his was the last voice I heard before drifting off to sleep. As I heard him engage Auntie in pillow talk each night, as they discussed the next day's activities, future plans, their conversation would serenade me off to sleep. This voice I've heard more times than I can recall explain. Yes, Miss Israel is silent now for a while. He dreamed of and achieved a full and abundant life. Now he waits for life. We celebrate.